Celestial Station hung above Talos 4 like a promise no one bothered to remember. Princess Serena watched it expand across the shuttle viewport, chrome ribs catching starlight, crystal domes refracting it into colors too precise to feel warm. Neutral ground, they called it. A place chosen because no one cared enough to fight over it. That made it perfect. The docking clamps locked with a groan that vibrated through her bones. Serena rose smoothly, long practice hiding the familiar sting beneath her ribs. Behind her, Lord Vast adjusted his ceremonial sash, fingers lingering as if fabric alone could steady him. His Majesty sends his regrets, Vast said carefully. Another border matter. Of course there was. Serena nodded and said nothing. The words "you are expendable" didn't need repeating. The Galactic Summit mattered, but not enough for a king to attend, so he sent his daughter instead. Let her learn. Let her fail quietly. The airlock opened and the station's recycled atmosphere washed over her, ozone, metal, and the faint wrongness of 1,000 species breathing compromises. Serena stepped into the concourse and instantly vanished. Not physically, politically. Delegates flowed past her in clusters. Towering crustaceans from Terminus Prime, scale-armored Vrex ambassadors, a walking crystal lattice humming inside a translator shell. No one slowed. No one looked twice. She was scenery, another minor royal drifting through a place that barely acknowledged she existed. Registration was efficient and merciless, credentials scanned, status logged, a green clearance chip placed in her palm. Serena noticed the gold chip handed to a hegemony delegate just ahead of her and felt something settle uncomfortably in her chest. Even insignificance had rankings. Her assigned quarters were clean, quiet, and aggressively neutral. Beige adaptive walls, gravity presets, a sitting area designed to offend no biology. Adequate. Somehow worse than poor. Vast withdrew with visible relief, leaving her alone with the weight of 2 weeks she already knew how they'd go. Ignored, polite smiles, no impact. The opening banquet only confirmed it. Table 47 sat far from power and even farther from interest. Conversations bloomed elsewhere. Serena ate glowing broth that dimmed as it cooled, watching importance orbit around her like she lacked the gravity to matter. She was considering leaving early when a voice broke the quiet. "Hey, this seat taken?" She looked up and found a human standing there, jacket rumpled, eyes tired but alert, smiling like he'd escaped something miserable and decided to gamble on company instead. And for the first time since arriving, someone saw her. She didn't know yet that this single, careless choice where one human decided to sit was about to change the entire summit. The human dropped into the chair beside Serena with a grateful sigh, like gravity itself had finally done him a favor. "Thanks," he said. "I've been mediating an argument for 3 hours, and I think both sides hate me equally. Apparently that means I did my job right." He extended his hand. "Finn Merrick, Earth Delegation, Cultural Attaché. And yes, I should have asked before sitting, but honestly, my legs were staging a rebellion." Serena hesitated half a breath, then took his hand. Warm, solid, real. "Serena," she said, "Princess of Caith." Finn blinked. "Ah, right. Your Highness, Majesty? I always screw that up." "Serena is fine," she said quickly, and surprised herself by meaning it. Finn grinned, glancing around their conspicuously empty table. "Wow. Prime real estate. Love what you've done with the isolation." She almost laughed. Almost. He noticed her untouched soup and flagged a server like they were equals. "Fresh bowl for her, please. And whatever course I missed while explaining why adequate is an insult in 12 languages. The server nodded, startled. Finn turned back to Serena with genuine attention, not the polite scan most diplomats use to evaluate utility. "So," he said, settling in. "Tell me about Caith." Earth's briefing notes were vague. "Stable government. Probably nice people. That's all I've got." No one had ever asked her that before without an agenda. She told him anyway. About independent mining. About being too small for corporate interest. About surviving by necessity instead of power. Finn listened, really listened, asking questions that weren't traps. The next morning, they sat together through a shipping regulation session so mind-numbing it felt designed as punishment. Finn passed her a data pad with a note scribbled across it. If I start snoring, claim it's a human meditation technique, she snorted before she could stop herself. When Serena leaned close and mentioned Kaith's transport protocols, flexible tolls, shared resources, Finn's expression sharpened instantly. That, he said quietly, is actually useful. When the moderator opened commentary, Finn nudged her foot beneath the table. You should say something. Her stomach tightened. Attention meant risk. Risk meant judgment. But Finn was watching her like she mattered. She pressed the speak request before she could stop herself and change the room. And Serena had no idea that speaking once would make silence impossible forever. The chamber went quiet after Serena finished speaking. Not the polite silence that followed irrelevance, but the kind where people recalculated. Then a crystalline delegate chimed thoughtfully. Another requested her documentation. The moderator told her to forward data to committee review. Her hands trembled as the session moved on. At midday, 3 delegates approached her table. 3. By evening, she had messages requesting consultations. Finn walked beside her like this was inevitable, like Kaith's ideas had always belonged in the room. You did great, he said simply. She almost believed him. Over the next days, momentum built. Not explosive, incremental, practical. HFY quiet competence. Serena found herself in conversations that mattered because her solutions worked. Not flashy, just effective. Then the message came. Ambassador Keelik's private meeting. Finn didn't sugarcoat it. That's not courtesy, that's interest. Serena felt the old fear claw back. Attention from major powers wasn't kindness, it was leverage. That night in the observation lounge, she told Finn everything. Her suspicion. Her fear of becoming a convenient piece. Finn listened, then said, Don't make yourself smaller preemptively, that's just invisibility with extra steps. When Calyx made his offer, trade access in exchange for Kaith's neutrality, Serena didn't flinch. She countered. A consortium, shared control, neutral administration. Everyone benefits. No one fires a shot. Calyx stared at her like he'd misjudged the board. I was wrong about you, he said. You wouldn't be the first, Serena replied calmly. When the emergency session erupted hours later over disputed territory, Serena was ready. She coordinated coalitions, presented data, forced cooperation to look smarter than conflict. And when the vote passed, Kaith became something new, relevant. Later, Finn handed her coffee and smiled. You realize you just prevented a war? Serena stared at the stars beyond the glass. I think, she said quietly, this is what it feels like to stop being small. And the galaxy had only just begun to notice her. Table 47 sat exactly where relevance went to die. Not close enough to the central dais to matter. Not far enough to escape notice completely. 5 seats. 1 occupied. Hers. The great hall arched overhead in living crystal, stars visible through its transparent dome, as if the universe itself had been invited to watch and judge. Tables radiated outward in perfect symmetry, each one hosting negotiations, alliances, and carefully staged laughter. Everywhere except here, automated plates adjusted to her biology. Standard, compatible, unremarkable. A server delivered a bowl of softly glowing broth. Serena thanked her. The server blinked in surprise before moving on, as if courtesy at table 47 had caught her off guard. Conversations bloomed around her like distant constellations, close enough to see, too far to touch. Trade wars, military leverage, political favors disguised as jokes. Her soup dimmed as it cooled. She wondered if leaving early would look less pathetic than staying. This seat taken? The voice was human, tired, warm. Serena looked up. He stood there holding a tray, jacket slightly rumpled, dark hair clearly attacked by stressed fingers. His smile wasn't polished, it was relieved, like a man who had escaped something unbearable and hoped this place was better. No, she said quickly, please. He sat with a grateful sigh. Thank you. I've spent 3 hours mediating a dispute where both sides now hate me equally. Apparently that means I succeeded. He offered his hand. Finn Merrick, cultural attaché, Earth. She hesitated only a fraction of a second before taking it. His grip was firm. Real. Serena, she said, Princess of Kaith. Oh, sorry, Your Highness, Your Majesty. Serena is fine. The words surprised her with how much she meant them. Finn glanced around at the empty seats. Wow, popular table. She smiled despite herself. Apparently. Good. I'm excellent company. Terrible at formal dinners, but excellent company. Finn noticed her untouched soup and waved a server over. Fresh round here, please. And whatever course I missed while accidentally insulting 12 species. The server nodded, startled again by being addressed like a person. Finn leaned back, studying her with genuine curiosity. Not calculation, not dismissal. So, he said easily, tell me about Kaith. Earth's briefing material basically says, exists, stable, probably nice. We're still learning the galaxy. Something shifted. For the first time since arriving on Celestial Station, someone wasn't looking past her. Someone was listening. And Princess Serena of Kaith, who had come here expecting to disappear, felt the smallest crack form in the shell of invisibility around her. The morning session was designed by someone who hated consciousness. Serena sat in Summit Chamber 3, watching a hologram cycle through hyperspace tariff coefficients so dense they could induce spiritual despair. Around her, delegates blinked slowly, antennae drooping, bioluminescence dimming, universal signs of boredom across at least 30 species. Finn sat beside her, taking notes with the intensity of a man fighting sleep through sheer willpower. When she glanced at his pad, she saw the words, "If I start snoring, please claim it's a human meditation technique." She covered her mouth. The laugh escaped anyway, an undignified snort. Finn's shoulders shook silently. The Vrex ambassador droned on about proportional burden distribution. Serena's attention slipped, and then snapped back hard. An idea had just formed. She leaned toward Finn, lowering her voice. Kaith has run independent asteroid shipping for 60 years. We had to solve these problems ourselves. Variable speeds, shared maintenance, cooperative tolls. Finn turned to her fully now, awake, focused. You already have a working solution? Yes. Fixed tolls don't work. We use contribution systems. Slower ships provide services instead of credits. Everyone benefits. Something sharp flickered behind his eyes. You should say that. Her stomach tightened. They didn't ask me. They don't have to. Open commentary exists for a reason. He nudged her foot under the table. And you're right. The moderator announced the open floor. Serena's pulse roared in her ears. Before fear could stop her, she pressed the speak request stud. Princess Serena of Kaith, the moderator announced. Every head turned. The chamber felt impossibly large. For one awful second, her mind went blank. Then she met Finn's gaze. You've got this. She drew a breath. The Kaith system operates outside major trade routes, she began, voice steady despite everything. We developed flexible contribution-based shipping protocols to accommodate variable vessel capabilities. Holograms shifted as she transmitted her data. Rather than penalize slower ships, we integrate them. Maintenance, navigation, emergency response, shared responsibility. It's kept 17 species operating cooperatively in hostile space. Silence. Then the crystalline delegate resonated. This precedent warrants review. Requests followed. Data inquiries. Interest. When the session adjourned, delegates approached her table. Not Finn's. Hers. And Princess Serena realized something terrifying and exhilarating. She was no longer invisible. The emergency session resumed with a tension so thick Serena could practically taste it. The chamber lights dimmed as the holographic projection shifted, now displaying projected outcomes instead of territorial claims. Casualty estimates, trade collapses, probability curves that all bent toward one ugly conclusion. War was becoming the easiest option. Serena sat straight, her hands folded, eyes steady. She felt every stare in the chamber slide toward her, not with dismissal this time, but expectation. That realization hit harder than fear ever had. A week ago, no one would have cared what she thought. Now, too many people did. Ambassador Calyx rose again, bioluminescent patterns rippling in controlled precision. The hegemony is prepared to accept a provisional framework, he announced, pending final authority structures. Which was diplomatic code for "we'll agree if we control it." Serena didn't wait for Finn's nudge this time. She activated her panel and stood. Authority cannot belong to any single claimant, she said calmly. If it does, this framework fails before it begins. Murmurs rippled outward like shockwaves. Calyx's glow sharpened. Princess Serena, the hegemony has centuries of experience administering dominance. She interrupted, not sharply but clearly. With respect, Ambassador, Kaith's value here is neutrality. If that neutrality is compromised, you lose the only reason this proposal works. Silence. Finn leaned back 2 rows behind her, lips pressed tight, pride flickering briefly across his face before he schooled it away. Serena continued. Kaith will administer logistics, not sovereignty. Oversight will be shared, transparency mandatory, no hidden military clauses, no temporary extensions that become permanent. This wasn't defiance. It was structure. For a moment, Serena wondered if she'd gone too far. If this was the second when relevance turned into retaliation. Then the crystalline accord resonated approval. Then the minor systems coalition followed. Then, after a pause just long enough to sting, the Vrex Confederation added conditional support. Kelix inclined his head a fraction. The hegemony will consider these terms. Which, translated, meant you just forced our hand. As Serena sat down, her pulse thundered. Finn sent a single message to her pad. That was terrifying and brilliant. But Serena couldn't shake one thought. If she'd just changed the board, what kind of game had she stepped into now? Because power once noticed never goes unchallenged. The private summons arrived less than an hour later. No formal chamber. No observers. No translators beyond the minimum required. Ambassador Kelix, 2 aides, a sealed negotiation alcove. This time there was no pretense of courtesy. You have momentum, Kelix said flatly. Momentum attracts pressure. Serena didn't sit until invited. She remained standing. I assume this is where I'm offered something again, she replied. Kelix's light patterns shifted. Amusement, perhaps. Correction, this is where you are warned. He projected a data stream into the air. Trade dependencies, shipping vulnerabilities, quiet leverage points Kaith had never been powerful enough to notice before. You are building influence faster than systems your size are meant to, he said. That makes others nervous. Serena clasped her hands to stop their trembling. So you intend to slow me down. We intend to align you. There it was. Support packages, security guarantees, exclusive corridors, and buried beneath it all, constraints. Limits on coalition leadership, delayed authority, silent veto power, a gilded cage. Serena exhaled slowly. You misunderstand, Kaith. Kelix tilted his head. Enlighten me. We survived because no one thought we mattered, she said. We adapted because we had no one to rely on. If I accept this, we lose the very independence that made this framework possible. And if you refuse, and he asked. She met his gaze. Then you'll have to decide whether destabilizing a neutral administrator is worth the political fallout of proving every fear smaller systems have about you. For the first time, Kelix hesitated. Serena pressed on, voice steady now. I'm not your proxy, I'm not your obstacle. I'm offering you a system that works. Or you can explain to the galaxy why you rejected peace because you couldn't own it. Silence stretched. Finally, Kelix deactivated the projection. You are inconvenient, he said. She allowed herself a small smile. I've been called worse. When she stepped out of the alcove, Finn was waiting, arms crossed, concern barely hidden. Well, he asked. She let out a breath she'd been holding for days. They didn't break it. Finn grinned. Hell of a thing to bet on. Because now the vote wouldn't just decide policy. It would decide whether the galaxy accepted a new kind of power. The final vote came at 0900 station time. No speeches. No theatrics. Just tallies lighting up one by one across the chamber. Approve. Approve. Abstain. Approve. When the threshold was crossed, the chamber didn't erupt. It shifted. History settling into place. The consortium framework is adopted, the moderator announced. Kaith is hereby designated administrative coordinator. Serena didn't move at first. She couldn't. Finn squeezed her shoulder. You did it. No, she said softly. We did. Messages flooded her pad. Congratulations. Requests. Offers. Her father's transmission arrived last, brief and uncharacteristically direct. You found your voice, I hear it now. That night, Serena returned to the observation lounge one final time. The stars felt different. Not smaller, not closer, but reachable in a way they hadn't before. Finn joined her, holding 2 cups of terrible station coffee. So, he said, what happens next? She looked out at the void. Now I go home and explain to my kingdom why everything just changed. He chuckled. Good luck with that. She turned to him. You sat down at a table no one else wanted. You listened. That mattered more than anything else that happened here. Finn shrugged. Humans are good at that, seeing value where others miss it. Her ship's departure signal chimed. Serena straightened, no longer practicing grace but owning it. I won't be invisible again, she said. Finn raised his cup. Pretty sure the galaxy just noticed. As she walked toward her future, Serena finally understood the truth that defined humanity's reputation among the stars. Not domination, not conquest, but the dangerous, unstoppable habit of refusing to overlook anyone. And once humanity saw you, you were never small again.